Was this a weird text message to send to several members of my family during the holidays, specifically Hanukkah, and specifically to several of my cousins who I am not out of touch with by any means, but that I also have never really opened myself up quite like this to? Hi, Aaron. Wishing you a happy Hanukkah, which I do not celebrate other than to rightfully claim my Jewish ethnicity, to use it as an occasion to reminisce over the scant few good childhood memories that I have, and to reach out to blood, i.e., you. While my sentiments are true, I hope they also made you chuckle, which reminds me of Chuckles, a favorite candy of my father's. I wish he was as sweet. Spoiler, he was not. Let us prosper or at least survive 2025. Love, Josh. Menorah emoji, peace emoji, heart emoji. Now, the reason this text is so unprecedented and out of the ordinary is because of the fact that I have spent the last couple of years really stretching out as a creative person, as an artist who is looking to dig within my soul for my real truth and my real voice. And I have been expressing that here through long form writing, through poetry, and other creative outlets. And as I do that more and more and do that more and more publicly, these people who are in my family and obviously friends and people who've known me throughout my life, they have the opportunity to see this. So when I do reach out with a loving gesture, but still a gesture that contains some level of animosity, I have to wonder to myself, am I taken seriously? Can I be a faithful narrator when it comes to expressing my affection and love for others? And I had to ask myself, Josh, how is that reconciled by these people that you're reaching out to? And more importantly, how do you reconcile that within yourself, dude? And I figured it out. I was unable to reach out with affection and sincere love to family or to friends or people around me who express to me that they care about me because of this undercurrent of anger that was instilled within me as someone who grew up with an environment that was not loving or caring. No, it was not. And as I have now channeled those feelings and those traumas into creative work, in addition to many years in a therapeutic environment, I have found that it has freed me up to express myself with sincere love and gratitude to family, friends, baristas, otherwise, the people in my environment, people who text me randomly, acquaintances even, and figuring that out and reconciling that within myself so I can understand how I can both be this acerbic, artistic force, but also a force of love, was a real revelation for me, because I got scared after I sent those texts. I was like, Josh, if any of these people or any of the other people I've texted recently to express my gratitude, if they see how I speak online, how incredibly snarky and sarcastic that I am, and am only getting more so as the days go by, can they possibly believe when I suggest that I care for them and love them and have affection for them? And to discover that not only can they figure that out, and if they can't, I can help them figure that out, because I can speak to it just like I'm speaking to you right now, but also I can express those things with sincerity, because as I told a friend just this morning, a friend who I am grateful that I can say I love you when they say they love me, as I told them this morning, it's quite possible that in the past, if I even tried to reach out this way, it would always have a tone of, I'm saying I love you, man. I don't fucking lie. I don't want you to have love. I don't want you to have, I'm not gonna give you love for free. What are you, crazy? This is a great thing that I am quite excited about. So I would love to know if anyone thinks those texts are weird, because they were met. I won't read you the responses. They were all responded to, and they were not responded to with any kind of strange reply. But only only one person acknowledged that my father was a horrible person, who would know, because the person who did reply is older enough than me to have gotten to have his own experiences with my father. No one else said anything to acknowledge the circumstances that I grew up in, but I feel like the door was open. So let me know, as a complete stranger who has listened to or watched this entire time, let me know, like, if you think that was weird, because if you do, I'd love to know about it. I would love to know how I am perceived by someone who is not directly involved with the Josh Bloom situation. And frankly, that is the only name I can give to the life I am living at this point. What do you say to someone who says, why should I care about what's going on with anyone else in the world? Why should I care about what's going on with my neighbor in relation to world events, in relation to the fact that there are children and women continuing to perish in Ukraine, continuing to perish in other places around the world that you cannot name? Why should they care? Now, I was contemplating this question this morning because it's Christmas morning, and you think about when you are around family, for instance, who may live lavish lifestyles. What do you say to them if this conversation comes up, which it always does? This is a logistical question. What would I say? Because frankly, I don't consider these people heartless. I don't consider these people nefarious, but I would not be surprised if the response to this topic is, well, I am feeling bad for them, but I am living my life. I am here. I'm living one life. What am I supposed to do? Fly to Ukraine? What am I supposed to? How do you respond to that? That's what I'm asking. So I thought about this for a while, and it got me back to an idea that I have thought about before, and I'm glad it came up again, which is the old adage of acting locally. But to define that more clearly, it is about just embracing the less fortunate around you. It could be a literal embrace, it could be a hug, but it is carrying that weight. Now, the response then might be, if I said that, like, oh, I carry that weight, I feel bad for them, it's horrible, it's a tragedy. There. Am I done? I am a person who believes in the reality that we are flying through space on a very tiny grain of sand, smaller than a grain of sand, infinitesimally small, so small one cannot even comprehend how small it is. Again, the response might be, great, it's small, wonderful, I'm going to buy a new Mercedes, or whatever car is the one that says, I made it. They may say that. They may acknowledge how small we are. I believe, because we are so tiny, that every little action has an equal and opposite reaction, because because we live in this tiny little existence where everything has an effect. Like I'm holding this phone right now. Now I'm barely moving my hand. But to you, it looks like the whole damn house is crashing down. That is a good metaphor. Metaphor, a word we made up to define for each other and to help each other understand meaning. So, what I'm trying to do in speaking about this today is to help anyone watching and myself to understand meaning, to understand that when we do not carry the weight of others, that no, we're not going to fly to Ukraine. We're not going to fly to the place you cannot name, because if you name it on social media, you get flagged or banned or whatever. That's part of the system, baby. Can't just fly to those places. Some people do, and congratulations to them for risking their lives or for losing their lives over such a thing, over such a gracious act. We're not going to fly to those places. What you can do is feel that tragedy, feel that pain. Buy your car, buy it. But when you're driving around in it, remember how fortunate you are. And I'm not talking about like, oh, I went to church on Sunday and I was gracious and I thanked God for everything. And I pray before my meal and I say, thank you, Lord, for these gifts. Most people who do that, they don't fucking mean it. You know, they don't mean it, doing it for show. They're doing it for show. And frankly, a lot of them are doing it for show to show themselves. Aren't I good? You know what's really good is when you leave that restaurant, eat half the meal. Eat half. You'll be fine with just half. Put the other half in a container and give it to somebody. And give it to them without needing acknowledgement. Give it to them without needing thanks. Give it to them because that act is saying, I am incredibly fortunate. I am embarrassed of how fortunate I am. And so I'm giving half of this away. Give your money away. The fact that these billionaires do not give their money away, and they'll say they give it away. Look how much I donated to charity. It's on a sheet, tax write-off. No, I'm talking about you go into a town and you rescue that whole damn town. You go into a city and you rescue that whole damn city. You go into a homeless shelter and you rescue that whole damn homeless shelter, and you don't say anything about it. You know, the real philanthropists, they don't tell anybody. You know why they don't tell? See what happens when my elbow slips? It rocked your world. The real philanthropists, they don't tell people, okay? Because they are doing that because A, it makes them feel like they are a part of of humanity, the tiny infinitesimal sized humanity. It makes them feel like they are part of humanity, makes them feel good, and it makes them feel as if they are contributing to their own happiness, their own future, their own prosperity by giving stuff away. This is what I would say to those who would say to me, but I'm not going to fly to Ukraine, so this is the best I can do. I feel bad. Actually feel, not necessarily even bad. I feel bad. That puts it on you. That makes it sound like, oh, I'm a victim too. I feel bad. No, just feel it. Feel it, man. Feel how difficult other people have it every day. I complained last week about how I don't turn on the electricity. I only have one light. Some people don't have any lights. Some people don't have a place to put a light. Okay? And they are happy because they're alive. They have family. They have hope. Please, when you encounter people with these kind of points of view of why should I give an F about anyone but myself, give them a reason. Answer that question. Don't let it be rhetorical. Say to them, you should give an F about other people because giving an F about other people is giving an F about yourself. Are you an adult child of parents who are continuing to traumatize and hurt you into your adulthood? Now, I am Gen X, So that time has ended for me because my parents are no longer alive. But what they did to me is still alive. I have a friend who recently started doing some very whimsical drawings. He's an artist, has been the entire time I've known him, which is most of my life. And he recently started to do these daily little post it note drawings. Very whimsical, very cute. And I encouraged him to post them. He started posting them, on an irregular basis, but then started posting them fairly regularly. And I was like, make it a daily thing, man. Because there will be people who will see them and then start to expect to see them. It's a nice thing. And I've noticed, I don't know, over the past month or so that he's been doing them, they've gotten better. They're little stories and they're cute. And I'm one of those people who looks forward to them, and he seems to be getting pleasure out of doing them, and pleasure out of the fact that people seem to enjoy them, and pleasure out of the fact that he's improving at them, and it's just a win all over the place. Now, I know this person's mother for a very long time, especially since we became friends when we were still teenagers, have known his mother. One of the reasons we became friends is because we both had kind of odd parents. And in the case of this friend's mother, I don't want to judge her or characterize her. She's been nice to me over the years, but I have not had a relationship with her in probably 10 years now. And I know why. So let me get to the inciting incident of this particular time with you. My friend had called me up, just chit-chatting, catching up as we do, and he mentioned, knowing that I know his mother as well as he knows his mother, that she had commented on the drawings to tell him I don't know about these drawings. This is his characterization of this. I don't know about these drawings. Basically, and he didn't have to say much more than that, and he was telling me because he knew what I would think about it, and he knew that I would understand. Why? Why would she do that? Do parents do that to their adult children? And obviously, if they're doing it to their adult children, they did it to them when they were kids as well. Do they know they're doing it? Do they not know they're doing it? I hope they don't know they're doing it, because if they don't know they're doing it, and then if they know they're doing it and then they do it anyway, then it's to inflict harm intentionally. If they don't know that they're doing it and do it and are completely oblivious to the harm that they've inflicted, and in this case for decades, a lifetime, it is very sad all around, because this is a person who could make different choices, who could be generous or at least be self-aware enough to not comment in that way, because the fact of the matter is, to say, I don't know about these drawings, and I know how it was said again, it is meant to undermine confidence, is meant to inflict pain. Now, when I say meant, again, I'm questioning how meant it is, but the result is inflicting pain. Now, you could say, like, oh, pain, schmain, what's the big deal? We don't have to get into what trauma is and how a lifetime of inflicted trauma and disregard and discouragement by a parent has such devastating effects. Like I said, my parents have been gone for years now, and I'm still sitting here on a Sunday morning talking to my phone as I deal with it, because it's real, man. People talk about trauma as something that maybe you should just get over. I try to use the analogy, like, what if I break my leg? Should I just get over it? That's what trauma is. It is a infliction of wound. And unfortunately, it's not the kind of wound that is as easily healed by going to get a cast put on. In fact, it is never healed. It is only managed. It is only dealt with. It is only acknowledged and compartmentalized and put into some sort of perspective, because when parents inflict these kinds of wounds on their children throughout their childhood, then that's how the child looks at the world. So in this particular case, and this particular woman, like, I understand her pain. I know her pain. And I empathize because of how pained she is. And I know my friend does too. But on the more cellular level, I feel for her because of what motivates her to say these things, but I feel for my friend more so than ever. There was a time when I was not even good to this person, and it's because I wasn't good to anybody, because I was a traumatized MFer. Not as traumatized as I am now. I'm less traumatized now, or I'm still as traumatized, but I am not as apt to lash out because of my trauma. I have an understanding. I have a deal, a bargain with my trauma. I feel for my friend because he's just making these whimsical drawings that often have his wife and his daughter in them, and they're cute and they're very much of who he is, and he is enjoying doing them. And I get pleasure out of not only seeing them but also enjoying the fact, like, I encouraged him to do this, and I'm seeing the result of that. It's seeing that there are people who enjoy them too, and that is a wonderful thing. And it opens him up to people in his life, to give them a little bit of insight into who he is and how he's doing. And for his own mother to try to come in there and cut, it is very it's very sad. But for my friend, because here he is, in his 50s, like I am, still having to deal with his mother taking opportunities to try to hurt him. And I don't want that for anyone. And if you are a child who is an adult child of a parent who does this, all I can say is, I'll say what he told me he said to her. And he said, I guess they're not for everybody. I thought that was a great response, because it says, hey, I acknowledge that you're at least telling me you don't like it. And I'm also putting you in your place, because when you talk to me like that, I don't think of you as my mother. I just think of you as anybody, and they're not good for anybody, and they're not good for everybody, or they're not good enough, or they're not. See, I'm actually angry about this now. It is pissing me off that this happened. I thought that was a great response. Maybe they're not for everybody. Maybe they're not. No. What they do know is what they meant. You can't expect people to be something they're not, parents included. Accept it and move on. Well, I'm going to make the assumption that you did not watch the video or listen to what I said, because if you had, you would not be leaving a comment like this. What they do know is what they meant. Now, I frankly am not quite sure what you mean by that. People are manipulative, including parents, as you say, and they can say and do all sorts of things, especially to their children, who they oftentimes think are their property, and they do not see them as actual human beings. So in this particular case, I am not in the woman's head, but I know the woman, so I can make some assumptions that when she is telling my friend, I don't know about those drawings, she is not meaning she doesn't know about those drawings. She is trying to get a rise out of him, or trying to inflict some sort of message that is not the message of, I don't know about those drawings. It's not that. Next, you can't expect people to be something they're not. I didn't say anything about expecting people to be something they're not. In fact, I'm talking about the exact opposite of that, which is people are who they're going to be. And if they are people who are inflicting trauma on other people, and in this case, a parent inflicting it on their adult child, just as they've done throughout their entire life, including their childhood, you don't expect them to change at this point. All you can do is deal with who they are. And that is getting me to your third point: accept it and move on. Well, there's nothing you can do but accept that they are the way they are, but move on. It's like, I know you didn't watch the video because I used the example of breaking a leg. You can't break your leg and just move on. In fact, you literally physically can't move on. Trauma is embedded within us. Trauma is who we are. When you are a traumatized child, you don't know the world other than through the eyes of your trauma. It is part of who you are. You can't be something else. Just like you just said, you can't expect people to be something they're not. Well, I and this friend I'm talking about and many others are not people who are anything other than traumatized people who are trying to relate to the world. So you can't just move on. It's something that has to be dealt with, and trauma is something that is having to be dealt with by people who are traumatized pretty much permanently through their whole life. So this comment, I ain't down with it. I don't think you want to follow me anymore. Feel free to vacate. I've always wondered how different I would have been if I had affectionate, supportive parents. I know what you mean. When I was first in therapy, I used to tell my shrink how it felt like having my hands pressed up a plate glass window and looking in to see families who were clearly loving and supportive of one another. And I don't mean like lovey-dovey affectionate. I just mean like they were a team, if you will. Like when I would see families around or, just in any kind of social situation, it looked like they just by default were loving of one another, supportive of one another, encouraging of one another, excited for one another, that the prosperity and success of each family member reflected upon each and every other family member. And I guess that's what goes wrong with some of these families. I guess that's what went wrong with my parents. They want the children to reflect on them in a way that somehow makes up for their own shortcomings that they came into parenting with. That's just not going to be possible. And as I have progressed over the years in therapy, I've, come to the realization that, my parents were screwed up and came into parenting screwed up and then screwed me up. And I've been unscrewing myself up and realizing how you actually do care about other people and support other people, and encouraging others and wishing for their success is not going to be to your detriment. It is going to bring about your own prosperity and happiness and success. And if you are good at discerning who the people are that you should prop up and give love and affection to versus the people who just want to take love and affection because they see you as a person that is needing to somehow fill that darkness that was created within you by those parental figures. If you're able to discern those two kinds of people and create those boundaries and only surround yourself with loving people who will take the love you give them and give it back, then you can get out of this mess. But it is a mess. And on my dark days, it still is hard for me when I see families and I see fathers and sons and mothers and daughters who, obviously have real relationships. When I see them, it sometimes is like looking through that window again, going, how do they do it?